Hello friends, this is just a reminder if you don't need to hear the audio recording of me reading the lesson to you, you are more than welcome to skip the video and just go straight to the PowerPoint presentation that's on the materials page of the virtual classrooms, the last page. So today we're doing lesson 2 of watercolors, and for the bell ringer I'd like you to just think about how do you decide what to paint? How do you decide on your subject? The most pressing question for many first-time watercolor painters is often the most basic. What should I paint? Not every subject will invite interpretation. If you think too much about what you see, you will start rejecting subjects left and right for being too traditional, too difficult, too pretty, too ugly. This kind of hyperselectivity eventually leads to the poisonous notion that I should choose something that someone would want to buy. Why do you think you want to avoid this? Listen to your eyes. Don't try to win a prize, or you might project past success onto your current project. You want to create something new, not something that's already been done. On this day, rain spoiled the painting excursion, but not before I had made the shift from seeing content to seeing form. As a result, this everyday scene presented itself as a worthy painting subject. Think about what he said. Put into your own words what you think he means. Now, once you find a subject, be sure to ask yourself, what attracts me to this image? Be mindful of what attracted you to the image. Ensure that those features are present in your finished work. Often the essential aspects of a given scene are matters of purely visual observation, but they can also be entirely emotional in nature. When the painter chose to paint the convent in Oaxaca, it was clear that the dark light contrast and the juxtaposition of a simple building with an elaborate one were essential visual elements. But he was also struck by a profound feeling of silence and dignity. So the goal was to find a way to make sure that these intangibles would be present in the final painting. Don't become distracted by the most obvious aspects of the scene. Write down what attracted you to the scene to help you keep it in mind as the work progresses. Looking at this photograph with the element of color removed helps reveal the role value plays. Although color enriches the sense of light in the scene, value does most of the work of creating a convincing illusion. This image was oversimplified by reducing the number of values to 3. White, middle gray, and black. This makes it possible to see if there's more subtlety needed and where. As complex and wonderful as the human brain may be, it is no match for the vicissitudes of watercolor. Vicissitudes. Sorry. What contrast do you see in the final painting? Mainly by virtue of big dark shadow, its value and cooler color set it apart from the sunlit arches, and its soft edges keep it simple. So let's revisit your purpose. What needs to be true in your finished painting? Whatever attracted you to the scene should be present in your interpretation of it. And remember to take stock of your finished work. Okay? So let go of control, leave room for the paint to assert its fluidity. Because if you remember in the last lesson, I told you that you can't overly control watercolor, right? You have to give it a little bit of room to breathe. It's all about balance. Form and content, risk and control, spontaneity and planning, detachment and engagement. To find the balance between careful and carefree, then ask yourself, what looks tricky? Looking for the tricky parts right away helps me know which type of study I should start with. In this image, if you squint at the vista, the space flattens out. This is because with the exception of the sunlit butte and the sky, all of the shapes are the same value. In addition, all that texture makes it hard to see how the big shapes relate. You need to deliberately oversimplify the scene. A sketch that treats the major shapes as simple washes should clarify what would work. You need to separate the foreground shape from the middle and background forms to make sure the full depth is apparent. If you lighten the foreground a bit, will that make enough of a difference? Or do you need to adjust the color as well? With much of the texture eliminated, it's easier to see how the major shapes relate. Increasing the color difference between the foreground and the middle ground improves the feeling of depth. I apologize if you hear my dogs squeaking their toys in the other room. With much of the sorry, I just said that. The sketch on the left does a better job of helping the artist understand what needs to be true in the finished painting. The simplicity helps you articulate the formal elements and better see what still needs to be finessed for the final painting. So by simplifying it, it can help you see what you need so you don't overdo it. Comparing two sketches can be very useful. Notice the different treatment of the arm of the middle shape as it slants upward along the top of the foreground. It was too insistent in the first sketch, so I tried making it lighter in the second. Both sketches reveal that the composition feels cramped and would work better if more of the river was visible. The left version is easier to read than the right. You can see that the edge between the foreground and middle ground shapes needs to be emphasized. With the clear, hard edge there, color and value differences between the foreground and the middle ground can be subtle. The foreground needs additional information, but not as much as in the right. So for your assignment, I want you to find a subject to paint and practice this oversimplifying. Okay, so you're going to choose a subject, and remember, we are not looking for something that we're going to sell. We want to do something new and something that has not been done. And then you're going to oversimplify the subject, as we saw the artist do today.